Now, the people of Iran may have just suffered a stolen election, and they're not taking it lying down. So we're going to find out how social media sites like Twitter and Facebook are actually fueling their protests in the loop.
Historically, political unrest in oppressive regimes has been halted with arrests and even slayings of political bloggers, internet protesters, and people caught at the wrong place at the wrong time. But after last week's Iranian election, where pro-Mousavi Iranians claiming ruling President Ahmadinejad and the Shiite party had fixed results, protesters turned to the one outlet they had left: Twitter. With the world's media exiled and unable to document the revolution, Iranians have turned to social networking sites to coordinate protests and send out text, pictures, and video showing exactly what is happening on the front lines. How important is Twitter and Web 2.0 in the Iranian revolution? And how might the ruling party in Iran fight back? You can't stop the signal. It's The Loop.
All right, joining me from New York to help make sense of it all, media reporter for the New York Times, Brian Stelter, is here. How are you, Brian?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Now, Iran has a full-blown revolution going on right now. There's no denying that, but the majority of the news coming out of the country seems to be breaking online. So first, let's start with Twitter. I mean, how big of a role is this service playing with what's going on right now?
Yeah. It's slightly hard to tell exactly how important Twitter is because some of the tweets are in other languages. But, you know, from what we're seeing even in English, it's clear that some of the organizers are talking to each other on Twitter, sending messages to protesters on Twitter, sending images and videos of the violence on Twitter, and helping to organize each other in the streets, you know, using text messaging, using cell phones,
right.
Much of that reverberating through Twitter, almost in a real-time basis.
But at 140 characters a pop, you know, at least for the text on Twitter, I mean, what are the messages? What are they actually saying?
Well, a lot of what we've seen on Twitter are calls to action among people in Tehran and other cities. For example, telling supporters of the opposition candidate, the ones who think they've had an election stolen from them, to go up to the rooftops each night and shout at 8 or 9 or 10 p.m. Reporters in Tehran have said they've heard the shouts, they've heard the protests on the rooftops, and a lot of that's been organized through word of mouth. And as we've learned by now, Twitter's a great way to, you know, to make word-of-mouth communication happen.
Absolutely. I mean, we all like to joke about, you know, what's your opinion on The Hangover, or what did you have for lunch?
Right.
I mean, that's what Twitter is mostly known for. But now it seems that just in the past week or so, it's really stepped into the limelight. In fact, they had scheduled system maintenance for this week, but the U.S.'s State Department stepped in and asked them to reschedule it. I mean, they didn't want to quiet down the Iranians here. So, I mean, do we know what the State Department actually said to Twitter, by the way? Did they just call them up and say, hey, dude, we really don't want the maintenance at this time?
Yeah, apparently they made it clear to Twitter how important a tool it was for communication. And, you know, I don't think we're going to hear the exact details of what was said, but they made it clear that, that Twitter was serving a valuable role in this thing. Yeah, look, I have a feeling that a lot of Iranians probably tweet about what they had for breakfast also. Sure. But at the time, this became a really valuable vehicle.
You know, Twitter's getting a metric ton of attention for this, of course, but what about some other services?
Yeah. Well, you know, we can't forget about Facebook and YouTube and Flickr and TwitPic and all the other sites that are helping show us these images, for example. You know, a lot of what we're seeing on television is coming from sites like YouTube. I think what Twitter I think why Twitter's so important here is that it's the connective tissue for all of this. You know, we're finding YouTube videos and we're finding Flickr photos through Twitter. So Twitter's kind of acting as that main hub for all of it.
Right, and you know, I think everybody would agree that it's amazing and it could be a game changer that exists. But at the same time, you know, Kim Kardashian's still a trending topic on Twitter. So at some point, does the impact of all the imagery and the accessibility, does that get dampened because, you know, Twitter is so open and people are using it for so many different discussions? Like, does that lessen potentially the impact that Twitter could have?
Well, I worry about a couple of things. I worry that it's so easy to access these pictures from Iran now, these very violent, gory pictures of people dying in the streets, that we might become desensitized to it because it's one click away. I also worry about the idea that, you know, trending topics go up and then go back down so fast on Twitter. It's easy to have ADD. It's easy to move on to the next story on Twitter. And I think it's up to a lot of the organizers who are using the site to keep it in the front of our attention, you know, to make sure that Kim does not rise back up to the top.
Right. Well, we need to obviously, you know, mash up a video with Keyboard Cat. Then we got the front page of Twitter. Then we got the Facebooks until we move on to the next one. But what about the Iranian authorities? I mean, are they clamping down? Because I'm surprised. I know that they clamp down on traditional media, but are they stopping people from Twittering? Are they beating people for updating their Facebook profiles?
Well, something interesting has happened in the past couple of days when newspapers like the New York Times have published the usernames of some of these Twitter users. We've gotten emails saying, please don't do that because they're afraid the authorities will come and find them. Now, we've thought to ourselves, Twitter's public enough that if you see this username online, you know, you've already taken a risk by publishing your handle. But issues like that have come up, and those are, I think, really fascinating issues when we're talking about a regime that's trying to crack down. There also have been rumors that the Iranian government's using Twitter as well, just like the opposition protesters are. But it's been a little harder to find that. It's clear that at least online, the protesters are winning.
Wow, it's an incredible story and an incredible use of the service. It finally has a legitimate leg to stand on, and I appreciate you coming on to discuss it, Brian. Really, thank you so much for keeping us in the loop.
Thank you.